a 20-month-old girl vanished from her own father's home.
The Ayla Reynolds case was the largest criminal investigation in the history of the state of Maine, and it had a significant impact.
When police examined the scene, they found biological traces throughout the basement, evidence that a serious incident had taken place inside. No one in the house was arrested at the time, but years later, they faced a civil lawsuit and an inescapable sentence of conscience. The story centers on Ayla Reynolds, a little girl born on April 4th, 2010, in the city of Waterville, Maine. Ayla was a lively child with golden blonde hair, bright blue eyes, and a radiant smile that made everyone who met her instantly adore her. She loved music and often danced to her favorite children's songs. Ayla's parents, Trista Reynolds and Justin DiPietro, were not a long-term couple but had a brief relationship during the summer of 2009, which led to an unplanned pregnancy. When Trista told him the news, Justin was shocked and expressed doubts about being the biological father. However, after Ayla was born, her resemblance to Justin was undeniable. Still, he tried to avoid responsibility until a paternity test in July 2010 confirmed their biological connection. That result forced Justin to acknowledge his role as a father, and later, in December of the same year, the Maine Child Protective Services required him by law to fulfill his child support obligations. Trista and Justin never had a court-approved custody agreement. Everything between them was based solely on verbal understanding. Trista, who lived in the city of Portland, was the one directly caring for and raising Ayla every day. Meanwhile, Justin only began to take on the role of a father around mid-2011, after Ayla's first birthday. He lived about an hour-and-a-half's drive from Trista's home, so his visits were infrequent and usually lasted only for the day. Both agreed that Justin could take Ayla out to play, but was not allowed to have her stay overnight with him to ensure the child's safety and stability. During this time, Trista entered a new chapter in her life when she became pregnant with her fiancé, Raymond Fournier, who was always by her side helping care for Ayla. In 2011, their small family welcomed a new member, Raymond Jr., and Ayla became a big sister. Trista tried to balance caring for two young children while maintaining communication with Justin, hoping that Ayla could receive love from both her parents. However, the differences in lifestyle and in their views on parental responsibility between Trista and Justin continued to simmer beneath the surface. Everything changed completely on October 13, 2011, when Trista had a meeting with the Maine Child Protective Services. The reason for this meeting was never fully disclosed, but records show that Trista was struggling with the use of harmful substances, prompting authorities to require her to choose: either recover quickly and prove her ability to be a capable mother, or temporarily lose custody of her children. Aware of the seriousness of the situation, Trista voluntarily entered a 10-day treatment program, leaving Ayla and baby Raymond Jr. in the care of her mother and sister in Portland, who both loved and devotedly looked after the two children. For Trista, Ayla and Raymond were her entire world, the motivation that kept her going through this difficult period. At that time, Justin DiPietro had only seen his daughter about 5 to 10 times since her birth. However, just 4 days after Trista began her treatment, on October 17th, Justin and his family unexpectedly requested temporary custody of Ayla. His mother, Phoebe DiPietro, proactively contacted the Child Protection Agency and quickly received permission for them to bring Ayla to their home on Violet Avenue in the city of Waterville. The official call from Child Protective Services announcing the temporary decision to place Ayla in her father's care reached Trista's family shortly afterward. When Jessica Reynolds, Ayla's aunt, heard that they had to hand the little girl over, She was furious and strongly objected, believing the decision was rushed and could put the child in danger. Jessica insisted that Justin had previously shown aggressive behavior that frightened Ayla, but the agency staff maintained that the father had higher legal rights than an aunt. After receiving approval, Justin and his mother, Phoebe DiPietro, immediately went to pick up Ayla, though they did not know the exact address. Child Protective Services provided the information to Officer Charles Weaver, who escorted them to Jessica's home in Portland. When they arrived, Phoebe stayed in the car while Justin and Officer Weaver approached the front door, creating a tense scene. Jessica pleaded with the officer not to let them take the child, saying she would not hand Ayla over without a court order because the little girl was happy and well cared for in a safe environment. When the officer stepped inside, he saw Ayla playing joyfully, smiling brightly, and chattering cheerfully, but Jessica urged him to watch one thing. Look at her when Justin walks in. Indeed, the moment Justin appeared at the doorway, Ayla instantly stopped smiling, burst into tears, and tried to back away. The atmosphere in the room grew heavy. Even so, under orders, Officer Weaver had to carry out his duty. He picked Ayla up, but she struggled violently, crying and trying to break free from his arms. When handed to Justin, Ayla reacted fearfully, trembling and sobbing uncontrollably. Jessica desperately told the officer that Ayla was afraid of her father and that taking her away was a terrible mistake. Weaver could only sigh and say that if the decision were his to make, he would never take the child from her maternal family's arms, but he was bound to follow the instructions given by Child Protective Services. It is important to understand that if Justin DiPietro truly wanted legal custody of Ayla, he should have reached a formal agreement with the child's mother, or gone through an official judicial process to have it approved by a judge. However, in this case, there was no court hearing and no legal document confirming a transfer of custody. The decision was based solely on the personal judgment of a supervisor from Child Protective Services, who authorized Justin to take Ayla without properly evaluating the necessary factors. This official overlooked the reasonable arrangements that Trista, the legal custodial parent, had made by temporarily leaving Ayla in the care of her mother and sister during her short-term treatment. Normally, before a parent is granted full custody, the court conducts background checks, interviews, living environment assessments, and even home visits to ensure the child's safety. Yet for Ayla, none of these steps were carried out. According to established principles in cases involving minors, the child's best interest must always come first. However, the records show no report explaining why this decision was made. Many child welfare experts later stated that authorities are only allowed to intervene urgently and alter a child's living situation if there is an immediate threat to the child's safety. The fact that this decision applied only to Ayla and not to her younger brother, Raymond Jr., who was living in the same conditions, raised serious questions about its fairness. After gaining custody, Justin brought Ayla to his childhood home on Violet Avenue in Waterville, where he lived with his 47-year-old mother, Phoebe DiPietro, his 24-year-old sister, Alicia, and her young daughter, Gabriella, who was around the same age as Ayla. The two-story house had an unfinished basement where Justin lived separately from the main part of the home. During Trista's treatment, she continued calling Justin every day to talk to her daughter, longing to hear Ayla's innocent voice and to know she was safe. In those calls, there were no warning signs at all. On October 20th, 2011, the 8th day after Trista entered the treatment program, an official meeting was held to review Ayla Reynolds' case. The meeting included representatives from Maine Child Protective Services, 2 consulting doctors, Trista Reynolds and her sister Jessica, accompanied by their attorney, and Justin DiPietro, who participated by phone. During this session, all parties reached a clear agreement. Ayla would be returned to her mother on October 22, 2011, immediately after Trista completed her treatment. At the same time, Justin agreed to bring Ayla to the rehabilitation center on the 21st, so Trista could reunite with her daughter. The meeting ended on a hopeful note, with everyone believing Ayla would soon be back in her mother's loving arms. However, just a few days later, none of what had been promised actually happened. No one from Justin's side brought Ayla to visit her mother, and there was no follow-up from Child Protective Services to ensure the agreement was honored. Trista began to worry, repeatedly calling the caseworker to demand an explanation for why her daughter had not been returned. But she only received vague and unsatisfactory answers. When it became clear she could not rely on the authorities, Trista reluctantly compromised. She agreed to let Justin continue caring for Ayla temporarily, as long as she was allowed regular visits, though she tried to remain calm and trust that her daughter was safe. Trista couldn't shake a deep unease, the instinct every mother knows too well, whispering that something was terribly wrong on the horizon. On November 12, 2011, Justin DiPietro took Ayla to the emergency room at a local hospital in Waterville. After performing X-rays and necessary tests, doctors determined that the little girl had a fractured upper arm bone near the elbow joint, a type of injury rarely seen in young children. Justin explained that the incident had occurred the previous evening, November 11th, when he was holding Ayla on the porch while it was raining, and in a moment of lost balance, he slipped and accidentally fell on top of her. He added that Ayla cried for a while but later seemed fine, so he didn't think the injury was serious until the next morning, when her arm was swollen and she appeared to be in pain. Although his explanation sounded plausible, the doctors noted that this kind of injury was uncommon and usually resulted from a strong, direct impact on the arm. Still, they decided on a conservative treatment approach, as the fracture didn't require surgery, only immobilization and follow-up care. A week later, on November 26th, during the third follow-up appointment, the orthopedic specialist concluded that Ayla's recovery was progressing well. Trista Reynolds, the ever-concerned mother, attended this appointment to see Ayla in person and hear directly from the doctor about her daughter's condition. She felt relieved to see Ayla smiling again, unaware that it would be the last time she would ever hold her daughter in her arms. After that visit, tensions between Trista and Justin escalated further. They argued constantly about custody, visitation rights, and even simple phone calls, feeling shut out of her own daughter's life. Trista decided to take action. On December 15, 2011, she filed a petition with the Maine Family Court to officially begin legal proceedings to obtain full custody of Ayla, hoping to bring her daughter back into the safety of her embrace. On the night of December 16, 2011, in a small house on Violet Avenue in Waterville, Maine, little Ayla, who was just 20 months old, was staying with her father, Justin DiPietro. The house had only 3 bedrooms, yet that night it was occupied by 5 adults and 2 young children: Justin, his girlfriend Courtney Roberts and her young son, Justin's sister Alicia DiPietro and her newborn daughter, and of course, Ayla, Justin's mother, Phoebe DiPietro, was not at home that evening. Around 8 o'clock that night, Justin said he tucked Ayla into bed in her small room, dressed her in blue polka dot pajamas, with her left arm still bandaged from the earlier injury. He wished her good night and gently closed the door. Everything in the house seemed peaceful, just like any other night. But the next morning, December 17th, 2011, when Justin woke up and went into his daughter's room, Ayla was gone. The door was locked, the window shut tight. There were no signs of forced entry or disturbance, only an empty room and a chilling silence that filled the air. Panicked, Justin called emergency services to report that his daughter had disappeared during the night. He stated that Ayla had gone to bed as usual and, when they woke up in the morning, she was no longer in her crib. At the same time, about 50 miles away, Trista Reynolds, Ayla's mother, was on her way to visit her fiancé, Raymond Fournier, who was being held at a correctional facility near the Canadian border. She was sitting in the passenger seat, dozing off, while her father-in-law, Robert Fournier, was driving. As the car moved steadily along the highway, Robert received a desperate phone call from Trista's father, who told him in anguish that Ayla was no longer at home. Stunned, Robert immediately pulled over to the side of the road and gently woke Trista. Still half asleep, she listened to her father's trembling voice in disbelief. Unable to comprehend the words being spoken, her daughter, Ayla, was missing. In utter desperation and fear, Trista Reynolds immediately begged Robert Fournier to turn the car around and head straight to the Waterville Police Department, where authorities were already launching an urgent search for her missing daughter. The drive took about an hour and a half, but for Trista, every passing minute felt like an endless nightmare. Throughout the journey, she kept calling Justin DiPietro, hoping he would explain what had happened to Ayla, but every call went unanswered. Each unanswered ring deepened her dread until all that remained was panic and tears. When they arrived at the police station, Trista was immediately taken into an interview room with Robert, her fiancé's father, to provide any information that could help locate Ayla. About 30 minutes later, Trista's own father, Ron Reynolds, arrived at the station, his face filled with a mix of anger and anguish. He demanded to see Justin and question him directly, but officers informed him that Justin was already speaking with investigators. According to later reports, Justin's 911 call had been made at 8:49 that morning, stating that his 20-month-old daughter, Ayla, had disappeared during the night. Justin told police that the last time anyone saw Ayla was around 10 o'clock p.m. on December 16th, when his sister, Alicia DiPietro, checked on the child before going to bed. The next morning, they woke to find her crib empty, with no signs of struggle or forced entry. In his statement, Justin insisted that an intruder must have broken in and taken Ayla while everyone in the house was asleep. However, that theory immediately raised suspicions among investigators, as there were no indications of a break-in, and the house had only one main exit. Justin's story failed to explain what had truly happened inside that quiet home. News of Ayla Reynolds' disappearance spread rapidly across the city of Waterville, and within just a few hours, the case had become the top headline throughout the entire state of Maine. Authorities immediately launched a massive search operation, mobilizing multiple agencies to work together. The Waterville police chief appeared before the media, declaring that this was an emergency investigation and that their only goal was to find Ayla at all costs. On the first day, investigators thoroughly searched the entire house on Violet Avenue, where Ayla had last been seen, collecting every possible trace that might lead to a clue. To facilitate the investigation, the DiPietro family was asked to vacate the home and temporarily stay with friends. A special command center was set up right in the neighborhood to to coordinate the efforts of police, rescue teams, and volunteers. By the second day, Sunday, December 18th, K9 search dogs were deployed to comb the area surrounding the house, including the nearby Messalonsky River, but no indication was found that Ayla had left the area on foot. At the same time, Trista Reynolds' home in Portland was also carefully searched to rule out any other possibilities, while she, the heartbroken mother now exhausted by grief, was taken to rest temporarily with her mother and young son at a nearby inn. Ron Reynolds, Trista's father, couldn't sit still. He joined search teams himself, combing through every street and forest, clinging to the faint hope that he might be the first to find his granddaughter. But the longer he searched, the more terrifying the reality became. Ayla seemed to have vanished without a trace. By the third day, Monday, December 19th, 2011, the search for little Ayla Reynolds officially expanded as the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, was called in to assist. At that point, more than 75 personnel from various agencies, including the Maine State Police, the Waterville Police Department, and volunteer rescue teams, were working together in what became one of the largest search operations the state had seen in years. During the investigation, 2 vehicles from the DiPietro residence were impounded for forensic examination: a 1996 Ford Explorer owned by Justin, and a silver 4-door sedan belonging to his girlfriend, Courtney Roberts, who had also been in the house the night Ayla disappeared. From the very first day, local newspapers covered the story extensively, with bold headlines splashed across front pages the following morning. News of the missing blonde-haired toddler spread rapidly, plunging the entire state of Maine into concern and sorrow. Just 72 hours later, Trista Reynolds appeared in multiple interviews with local media, pleading for the public's help and making it clear that Justin DiPietro was the only person who could explain what had happened, as he was the last one to see Ayla alive. By the end of the first week, Ayla's story had reached national attention when it was featured on The Today Show, one of America's most popular morning news programs. During the interview, Trista, through tears, said she could not understand how her daughter could have disappeared while in her father's care. On the evening of Wednesday, December 21, 2011, Justin DiPietro made his first public appearance before the media to issue an official statement regarding his daughter's disappearance. During the interview, he appeared calm to the point of coldness, speaking in a composed tone as if the incident had not occurred while Ayla was under his direct care. Justin stated that he did not know what had happened and would not make any accusations or assumptions until police determined who was responsible. He added that he and his family were fully cooperating with investigators to help bring Ayla home, emphasizing that they would do everything possible to ensure her safe return. However, in this statement, Justin made a false claim by asserting that he had legal custody of his daughter through a mutual agreement with Trista. In reality, there was no legal document or court order granting him sole custody. Ayla remained under her mother's guardianship. Furthermore, Justin went on to allege that Trista was unfit to care for her daughter, an accusation that sparked public outrage, as by that time Trista had been recovering well and had successfully completed her treatment program to regain custody of her child. As the days passed, the search for little Ayla Reynolds continued to expand on a scale never before seen in the state of Maine. The FBI's Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team was deployed to Waterville, going door to door throughout the neighborhood to collect information. Agents interviewed dozens of witnesses, searched roadsides, landfills, forests, and the area surrounding Messalonsky Stream, clinging to the faint hope that some small clue might break through the mystery surrounding the case. The Maine State Police emphasized that this was one of the largest search operations in the state's history, with more than 75 officers from multiple agencies working tirelessly day and night. By the 10th day after Justin reported his daughter missing, it was estimated that over 5,000 man-hours had been dedicated to the search. With 330 leads under active investigation, the operation also involved around 50 civilian volunteers from the Maine Association for Search and Rescue, all working under the freezing conditions of late December. To encourage the public's cooperation, a reward of $30,000 was offered for any information leading to Ayla's discovery. Meanwhile, Trista Reynolds refused to give up. The heartbroken yet determined mother didn't just wait for updates. She actively worked alongside support groups, organized prayer vigils, lit candles in Ayla's memory, and urged the public to keep the case alive. News cameras were always present at those gatherings, capturing the image of the young mother standing in the cold winter night, eyes red from tears, but her voice unwavering as she declared, "I will not stop until my daughter is found." Through Trista's relentless effort and the community's solidarity, the case of Ayla Reynolds became more than just a local tragedy. It turned into a national symbol of a mother's love and the pursuit of justice.
And it didn't take long for the massive search for Ayla to captivate the world.
The Ayla Reynolds case was the largest criminal investigation in the history of the state of Maine, and it had a significant impact.
But there's no one it impacted more than Ayla's mother.
This year just seems to be a lot harder for me than most years.
Trista Reynolds still feels the pain, the emptiness. She says the last Christmas season she spent with her daughter was here at the tree lighting in Portland. Now she has to get through yet another holiday without her little girl.
So every year I will stand out here and I will tell her story and I will tell my story, because maybe it could save the next one.
Over time, the initially hopeful tone of the authorities began to shift toward one of caution and gravity. The Waterville police chief continued to publicly state that the case was still being treated as a disappearance rather than a serious criminal investigation. Yet the changes in investigative procedure and the tense atmosphere surrounding Justin DiPietro's home told a different story. The area where Ayla was last seen was completely sealed off. Justin's and Courtney Roberts' vehicles were impounded for forensic examination, and the Maine Attorney General's office formally sent representatives to the scene, a clear sign that the situation had escalated beyond a standard missing persons search. Police also ruled out the possibility that Ayla had wandered off on her own, as the little girl was only 20 months old and could not have gone outside alone in such harsh winter conditions. By the 13th day after the disappearance was reported, the Waterville police chief handed the case over to the Major Crimes Unit of the Maine State Police. And at that moment, the official announcement was made. The case of Ayla Reynolds was no longer considered a missing person search, but a full-scale criminal investigation. The news stunned the entire community. As public pressure mounted, Justin DiPietro, who had previously avoided media attention, began appearing more frequently. In an interview on The Today Show, he once again insisted that Ayla had been taken by someone and delivered an emotional message to whoever he believed was holding her. If someone is taking care of Ayla, please know that what you're doing is not right. She needs to come home to her real family. The way he spoke, as if he knew exactly who that person was, divided public opinion. Some sympathized with the pain of a father, but most found Justin's demeanor unnervingly calm, and his words seemed to lack the genuine fear and desperation of a grieving parent, replaced instead by the guarded tone of someone bracing for what was to come. By the end of January 2012, nearly 6 weeks after the incident, the Maine State Police held a press conference and revealed information that shocked the entire nation. Biological evidence confirmed to belong to Ayla Reynolds had been found in multiple locations throughout the DiPietro home. According to forensic analysis, these traces were not only discovered in the little girl's bedroom, but also in the basement, the area where Justin DiPietro lived. Although authorities did not yet have sufficient grounds to make any arrests, they confirmed that the 3 adults present in the house on the night Ayla disappeared, Justin, his girlfriend Courtney Roberts, and his sister Elisha DiPietro, were all considered persons of significant interest in the investigation. During the press conference, Stephen McCausland, spokesperson for the Maine Department of Public Safety, emphasized that the version of events provided by the DiPietro family did not align with the physical evidence collected at the scene. He also completely dismissed the theory that an intruder had entered the home and taken Ayla without anyone noticing, stating firmly that there were no signs of forced entry, tampering, or any outside intrusion. 6 months after Ayla Reynolds' disappearance was first reported, on May 30th, 2012, the Maine State Police held a press conference that left the entire community speechless. They announced that the likelihood of Ayla being alive was very low. Trista Reynolds' family allowed reporters into their home to capture the moment they watched the announcement. Upon hearing those words, Trista broke down in uncontrollable tears, and soon after, her grief turned into fury. Through sobs, she declared that Justin DiPietro was responsible for the tragedy that had taken her daughter away. For Trista's family, trying to comprehend the details of the forensic findings from Justin's house was excruciating. They learned that investigators had discovered a significant amount of biological evidence belonging to Ayla inside the home, and reports indicated that the quantity found was equivalent to roughly 1/4 of the total blood volume in her small body, a number chilling enough to shake anyone who heard it. However, for months, the family was not allowed to see the evidence until January 2013, when the crime scene documents and photographs were finally released to them. According to the crime scene analysis later released, Justin DiPietro's 1996 Ford Explorer, the same vehicle used in the days leading up to Ayla's disappearance, had a child safety seat in the back, and biological traces confirmed to belong to Ayla were found on the left seatbelt. In addition, investigators discovered dried material believed to be stomach fluid on the seat's surface, suggesting that a serious medical incident might have occurred inside the vehicle. Inside Ayla's bedroom, forensic specialists found small, dark brown stains on her pink princess-printed sneakers, on the floor near her crib, and on the face and hands of the doll she often slept with. Investigators concluded that Ayla might have tried to wipe her mouth with her favorite toy. In the living room, a similar faint mark was found on the sofa. However, the majority of the most concerning traces were concentrated in the basement, the area where Justin and his girlfriend, Courtney Roberts, had slept that night. There, investigators discovered a large stain on the mattress consistent with Ayla's biological profile. They also found dried vomit on the bed and a small pink hair strand of unidentified origin, possibly from a child's toy. Nearby, Justin's sneakers were found to have Ayla's biological traces on the tongue and inside the shoe. On the concrete floor surrounding the bed, forensic examiners noted several small spatter patterns in an arc shape, with some even reaching the wall at a height corresponding to Ayla's stature. A forensic expert stated that among the samples collected at the scene, many of the droplets were as small as a dime, indicating that a strong impact with a hard object had caused significant trauma. Additionally, Detailed analysis showed that some of the biological traces found inside the house might have resulted from Ayla coughing or vomiting, suggesting she had suffered both external and internal harm. According to the report, the bedsheets from the basement showed signs of being used to wipe away stains, leading police to suspect that someone had attempted to clean the scene. For Trista Reynolds and her family, hearing these details was an indescribable shock, but nothing could have prepared them for what they were about to see. When investigators presented the results of the luminol tests, the images revealed countless invisible traces glowing throughout the house, especially in the basement. The photographs of the scene caused Trista to collapse right there at the police station. She broke down in tears, panicked, and had to leave immediately. From that moment, she was certain Ayla was gone, and that what had happened inside that home was far more than a simple disappearance. Police said there were many more images that had not been released, but Trista refused to look at them. She had endured enough pain. In stark contrast to the mother's reaction, Justin DiPietro and the DiPietro family showed almost no emotion when they were shown the same photographic evidence. Reports indicated that when officers presented the materials to them months earlier, Justin remained silent, while his girlfriend, Courtney Roberts, and his sister, Elisha, declined to comment and appeared indifferent. Their silence only deepened Trista's anguish. In her despair, she told reporters that the people who were inside the house that night were still living their normal lives, while justice for her daughter had yet to be served. 8 months later, in September 2013, Trista decided to write an open letter to the media, describing in detail the evidence and photographs she had seen. She said she was exhausted from waiting and that, with or without the authorities' approval, she wanted to reignite public attention so that the name Ayla Reynolds would never be forgotten until the truth was finally revealed. In the spring of 2016, a group of reporters visited the home of Phoebe DiPietro, Justin's mother, to ask further questions about the biological evidence previously discovered in the case. Elisha DiPietro, Ayla's aunt, was the one who answered the door. When asked about the forensic findings inside the house, she claimed that Ayla was lactose intolerant and might have vomited, suggesting that this was the reason for the traces found. However, when journalists verified the information, they discovered that the common symptoms of lactose intolerance typically include bloating, stomach cramps, and mild diarrhea, while nausea or vomiting occur only in rare cases and could not possibly account for the severity described in the investigative reports. Elisha's explanation only deepened public suspicion that the DiPietro family was attempting to downplay or conceal the true extent of what had happened. By 2017, at the request of Trista Reynolds, the Maine court officially declared Ayla Reynolds legally deceased, determining that the tragic incident had occurred around December 17, 2011, the same day her father reported her missing. This ruling marked a significant legal turning point, paving the way for a wrongful death civil lawsuit that Trista and her legal team filed in court. In the complaint,
Not long after, Trista Reynolds filed a civil suit against Justin DiPietro to try and hold him responsible for their daughter's death. And now, for the first time since Ayla vanished, he's set to be deposed in the case this week.
I think I have more.
However, after the lawsuit was filed, Justin had already left his residence, and months later, his attorney released a statement denying all allegations, calling the case baseless and without legal merit. Confronted with that cold silence, Trista decided to hold a press conference, standing before the cameras and delivering a message directly to the man who was once the father of her daughter. Speaking through tears, yet with unshakable determination,
I can see it in your eyes. And you know that's the problem. You look at me and you're gonna, I know you care.
Just say something, man.
Please, Justin.
In early 2023, a Maine judge officially approved Trista Reynolds' petition to expand the wrongful death civil lawsuit related to Ayla Reynolds' case, adding Phoebe DiPietro, Ayla's grandmother, and Elisha DiPietro, her aunt, to the list of defendants. This means all three, Justin, Phoebe, and Elisha DiPietro, are now facing serious civil allegations, including wrongful death, causing the victim conscious pain and suffering, and unlawfully interfering with the remains of a deceased person. In addition, Justin faces a separate accusation of violating his parental duty to care for a minor child, an act considered both negligent and morally irresponsible. Though Trista and her legal team knew they would not receive any financial compensation from Justin or his family. That was never the goal. Their true mission was to expose the truth, to show the public what really happened to Ayla, and to restore the dignity of her name. During her discussions with investigators, Trista was told a shocking detail about the morning Ayla disappeared. Before calling 911, Justin DiPietro had driven to Portland and then back to Waterville, a distance of more than 100 miles. He claimed he believed Trista had taken Ayla and said he was trying to find her. However, throughout that entire trip, he never called Trista or anyone in her family to confirm his suspicion. Instead, Justin contacted a friend, the same person who had sold him a life insurance policy worth $25,000 for Ayla just weeks before she vanished. Even more suspiciously, Justin stayed at this friend's home while detectives were examining his house in Waterville, an action that raised serious public questions about his true motives. Considering that Justin had been largely absent from Ayla's life during Trista's pregnancy and her early months, his sudden decision to purchase life insurance for the little girl and then leave the scene just before reporting her missing only deepened the mystery. Furthermore, Trista revealed that in the week leading up to Ayla's disappearance, Justin had sent her several cryptic messages saying he feared someone might try to take Ayla or harm her. The last such message, sent around December 11, 2011, just 6 days before the disappearance was reported, sounded almost like a warning. When Ayla actually vanished, those messages, once seen as a father's concern, suddenly appeared far more sinister and unsettling. Trista said that even now, she still wonders what those words truly meant, and whether they were an indirect warning about something Justin already knew before the rest of the world learned about the case of Ayla Reynolds. The story of Ayla Reynolds is not only a heartbreaking case recorded in the history of the state of Maine, but also a powerful reminder of responsibility, love, and vigilance in parenthood. A single rushed decision, a moment of negligence, or even a small lie can lead to irreversible consequences. More than a decade has passed, yet Ayla's name continues to live on in the hearts of those who have followed the long journey for justice on her behalf. This story reminds us that every child deserves love and protection, and that while justice may come slowly, it will never fade away. Thank you for staying until the end of today's video on True Crime Documentary, where we not only recount real cases, but also honor the innocent lives lost and reflect on the lessons they leave behind. If you were moved by Ayla's story, please share this video, leave a comment in her memory, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so you can continue joining us in future stories. We'll see you again in the next episode of True Crime Documentary, where the truth is always told with compassion and a deep longing for justice.